What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Saturday in Athens GA Podcast. My name is Marshall Barton, and we're finally at game week. It's been a long off season, a lot of storylines, a lot of talk about Gunnar Stockton and Mike Bobo, and this somewhat inexperienced Georgia team losing a lot of production heading into 2025 from the year before. All the headlines, all the talking season is over. Now it's time to go do it on the field, on the grass. I'm very excited to bring y'all today's episode. We're going to look over the official analysis for Georgia versus Marshall for this Saturday. We've also got Hammy Culpepper from the Hammy Show and We Are Bulldogs, Bulldog Illustrated, joining the show. We're going to talk a little bit about Georgia's game, but also college football in general, top 25, and other stuff. So we're going to go ahead and get straight into the analysis part of today. This is a series that I've been doing for quite some time with Georgia Dogs coverage on Instagram. Every week we kind of give our keys to winning. We overview the series, history of whoever we're playing, the last time we played, what the score was. Given that it was last year, or given that this is the first game of the year, I don't have stats to go off of from this year, so we're going to look at last year's stats for both of these teams. I'm going to go ahead and get straight into it. Georgia and Marshall have only played one time in their history. Georgia won 13-3 in 2004. I was reading some of the comments on that post, the analysis post. Apparently some of y'all were freshmen that year watching that game. That was your first Georgia game as a student. Very unenjoyable, it sounds like. So that's the way some of you described it as your experience. So again, 13-3. So Georgia's looking to have a little bit bigger margin of victory this time. Marshall is actually a pretty good team on paper. Marshall went 10-3 last year. Marshall won the Sun Belt. And their offensive stats are pretty decent for a Sun Belt team. They had 382 yards a game, drop-off being that they allowed 378 yards a game. They played Ohio State. Ohio State probably had a bit of inflation with those stats for Marshall. They also lost to Georgia Southern, I believe. Georgia Southern, GATA, and Virginia Tech. They won the rest of their games, though. So record-wise, on paper, they're pretty good, at least last year. They're averaging 32-ish a game and allowing 23. Looking at Georgia's season last year, which I put a post out on this yesterday or the day before, Georgia's margin of victory really fell a lot last year, as you can all imagine, but I just want to look at that statistically for a minute. Georgia scored 31.5 points a game in 2024 compared to 40.1 points a game or 40.8 points a game in 2023. Georgia allowed 15.6 points a game in 2023. This jumped up to 20.6 in 2024. So Georgia obviously statistically had a much tougher season last year. Georgia went 11-3. 3 losses is something that the Georgia team hasn't had since 2018 when we lost to LSU, Alabama, and Texas in that Sugar Bowl. I know most of us would like to forget that. But really, Georgia fans, we're so blessed to have the run and the team that we have right now. Georgia fans 10 years ago would kill to have the team we have right now. I know a lot of you, these people that I'm speaking of, these longtime Georgia fans are watching this. Just realize we've got a lot better than we had it. Like even though we may not be going undefeated every year, or we may have not won the national championship the last 2 years, this is the golden era of Georgia football. So appreciate that. Know what we've got is so special for Georgia football. More into the statistics of Georgia last season. Georgia averaged 405 yards a game and allowed 330. So 330 definitely, I would feel like, on the higher side, not by a lot, because Georgia's teams typically do allow more yards than you would think for Georgia defenses, but they allow a lot less points in comparison to those yards allowed. So definitely a statistical drop off from last season. I think I already mentioned this. This game has been played one time in both of the schools' histories. Georgia won 13-3. Georgia leads 1-0. Commentators for this game: Mike Monaco, Kirk Morrison, Don Davenport. Sanford Stadium, of course, beautiful Sanford Stadium, the venue. It's going to be a great temperature outside for Georgia fans this weekend. If you are going to the game this weekend, it's going to feel a lot better than your typical opening game at Sanford Stadium. Obviously, it's going to be sunny. It's probably going to feel hot by the third quarter, but it's going to be 78 degrees outside. So another blessing that we get this weekend with Georgia football. Next thing I wanted to look at is some of the lines for this game. Georgia's favored by 39.5. I'm not as much into measuring Georgia's success off of spreads and lines like that. However, I do think this one could go either way. I do expect Georgia to come out quick. I know that it's a season opener. I've spoken to one of my friends about that, but also that Georgia typically starts slower. And that's one of the things Mike Bobo has kind of addressed, this offseason is to start quicker, not have these slow, horrible starts to games. I don't know how it's going to look the entire season. I don't think it'll be an issue this week. So I do think Georgia will start quick. I think, again, spread 39.5 is a big spread. Could go either way. I'll probably pick, let's see, what did I say? That would be a Georgia. Nope. I don't think they'll cover. I think it'll be close, but I don't think Georgia will cover this weekend. The over-under is 55.5. I think I took the over on that. I did. Yeah, I think Georgia will break that over. And then FPI, not that anyone cares about ESPN FPI, but Georgia's at 97.3%. Marshall's at 2.7, if my math is correct. Georgia's got the edge at every position. Marshall, again, Sun Belt champion. Ooh, spooky, Sun Belt. This isn't going to be a relatively close game, I hope. Georgia should win pretty soundly. We'll see. I don't know. Not 100% for sure what the vibe is going to be coming out of week one, but I do expect a big Georgia win. I'll say that. I'm very excited to see what this Georgia team can be in 2025. I do think it's going to be an explosive offense that we have. I do want to read over some of these keys to victory that I went over with. Oh, and I was mentioning that. UGA Rush and We Are Bulldogs have joined the analysis post. So that's great. Some more analysis, some more keys to victory. But these keys to victory, this was mainly them doing this. And I just kind of summed it up and maybe tweaked some of my own stuff into there. It was really good stuff. Offensively, do your job, start quick, execute. We've got one thing I added in. We got an elite quarterback who is an elite passer, very accurate. He can run the ball. Mike Bobo just needs to game plan. Mike Bobo and Kirby Smart just need to game plan around Gunnar Stockton. He's very unique and specific strengths. Play to those strengths, and I think Georgia can be a very good football team. Very good offensive attack this year. On top of this, defensively, set the tone. Best linebacker group in the league, in the country, I would say. Defensive line has been looking very good over the course of fall camp. We've gotten some more stability with Jordan Hall finally being healthy. Christian Miller being one of the top interior defensive linemen in the country. Christian Miller being one of the top defensive linemen in the country. Elijah Griffin being just a freak phenom out of high school. Gabe Harris, Elam Mendoza. That front on the defense is going to be elite. We got to go out there and show it. Secondary has something to prove with some new guys taking some new spots. So just be efficient overall. Execute. Start quick. Don't look back. That would be my keys to this week for Georgia, or keys for this week to Georgia. Now we're going to bring on Hammy. We're going to talk about some Georgia things, bring on some around the country stuff. It'll be great. Stay tuned for this interview. All right, everyone. I'm here with Hammy Culpepper, who runs We Are Bulldogs and the Hammy Show on Instagram. Hammy, how we doing?
Good. Thanks for having me, man. I'm excited to do this.
Absolutely. We're going to go ahead and jump right into this. I've got a couple questions for him. We're going to kind of just talk a little bit of week one, but mainly just Georgia in general, Georgia's outlook on the season. We're going to look at the top 25 a little bit. First question for you. What was Georgia's biggest issue in 2024 that will be solved in 2025? Biggest sort of thing that we really struggle with that we've kind of got a solution for heading into this season?
Yeah, man. I mean, I think the obvious ones, obviously the drops from the wide receivers, the offensive line struggling to run the ball, and then defensive line struggling to stop the run. Kirby's harped on that in all of his preseason press conferences and stuff. But I think what separates it in the question that you ask is what will be fixed the most in 2025. And I think that's the wide receiver room. I think going to the transfer portal and getting those guys, Zachariah Branch, Noah Thomas, huge gets for Georgia. Zachariah Branch, I went to the scrimmage the last scrimmage, whatever that was, a few Saturdays ago, and watching him on the field, he is the fastest person I've ever seen touch a college football field. And people might call me crazy because we've had Arian Smith, we've had Mecole Hardman, we've had so many fast guys, and there's plenty of others around the country. But Zachariah Branch will literally be one of the fastest players in college football this season, and I'm excited to watch him. I think he perfectly fits into our system. Everybody's harping on Bobo and stuff like that, but they struggle with the screen passes and the dump passes and all that. Well, if you give Zachariah Branch the ball on a screen pass, he's getting 10 yards for you. A little 5-yard slant route. If he gets 2 steps ahead of his defender, it's bye bye. So I'm excited for him. Then Noah Thomas. I mean, he is a freak of nature. His fingers literally touch his knees when he walks around. He has got a huge catch radius. And then getting a guy like Colby Young back, that's huge. These freshmen that have stepped in, Taylon Taylor is going to be a big presence on this Georgia receiving core. So I would say, we had many struggles last year, and it's crazy to even say that because we were 10-2 and won the SEC championship. But among our standards, that's not what we want. We want more. We want the natty. And I do think the offensive line and defensive line will improve. I think the running backs will improve as well. But those wide receivers, what we did in the offseason, I think that's going to be the biggest step forward for Georgia.
Couple notes there. I'm going to throw some wrinkles at you.
Yeah.
Um, I heard that Kirby was speaking very highly the other day of that receiver room, and I mean, I think it's very warranted. I think you get a guy like Zach Branch, who may not be exactly the same as Arian Smith, but I believe you can throw him in sort of the same ways, be like the eye candy for the defense. A lot of those
Mhm.
times you put Arian on a motion, you think you're going to toss it to him, you hand it off, big yards, or like that play against Georgia Tech in the second half where you get that toss sweep to Arian with blockers ahead. Zach Branch can be that sort of guy. So just excited to see what he can do
Yeah.
from a playmaking ability. As you said, Noah Thomas as well, as big of a frame as he has and being as athletic as he has is pretty exciting to see for Georgia this year. Um, the other thing I kind of wanted to talk about Bobo because it's interesting. It's funny because it's very controversial. He's
Yeah.
very polarizing, I would say.
Right. For
Um,
sure.
but I was so critical of him after the end of last year, and like I put a bunch of slander on him. I'm gonna own that 100%. Um, and then the point you made about getting Colby Young back, it kind of that whole sort of thing makes me think a lot of what happened last year. Like there are some things you can get at Bobo for, like predictability. That was my biggest issue with Bobo. I thought a lot of stuff was pretty predictable, but I mean, it's kind of tough when you don't have your true wideouts.
Right.
Losing Robert Thomas before the season, losing Colby Young by week 5 or after the Auburn game, like that again. Bobo's not perfect, but losing those two is very tough to run an offense when you don't have a true wideout. It's also really tough when you lose the greatest tight end in the history of college football and Ladd McConkey the year before. It makes things a little tougher,
Yeah. For
but I mean,
sure.
just by a little bit. So I would throw that out there. But I am excited for what Georgia's offense can be, just because I do think we can game plan around Gunner a little bit more. I actually just spoke about that. I think we can game plan around Gunner. He's got good strengths, good, unique, and specific strengths that the offense can run around. I think
Mhm.
having a running quarterback really helps the running game so much. And I went over a clip last week of it was a run from Nate Frazier, but it was a read option, or it could have been a read option and just he pulls 4 defenders with him. Gunner does, and it opens
Yep.
up a 15-20 yard lane for Frazier. So it's very exciting to see that for Georgia in 2025. Uh, moving gears on this one, who is your biggest breakout player for Georgia in 2025 and why? Who is that guy for you?
Yeah, so I'm going to give you two, one on each side of the ball. So the first one will go offense, and I didn't mention him last question because I knew I was going to bring him up right here, but it's maybe more of a bounce back year, and I think that's Dylan Bell.
Like it.
I think what we saw in 2023 is what he's going to get back to. That Swiss Army knife. I mean, he was all across the field. We had him at running back. We had him throwing a touchdown pass against Tennessee. I think he can be that special person on the offense that is just a do everything guy. Whether it's in the passing game, whether it's in the run game, we talked about our running back room and the struggles we had last year. Obviously, Nate Frazier is going to be RB1. Cash is going to get in there. We've got Bo Walker, the freshman, Rod Robinson, if he stays healthy. A ton of running backs. But Dylan Bell, if you look at it, him and Cash are the two most veteran guys if Dylan Bell is in that running back room. And I'd love to see him there. I mean, he was a stud there. So I think he's going to have that bounce back year. Going back to your point on losing Colby Young, on losing Ra Thomas last season, Dylan Bell had to be that wide receiver one. And he's not a wide receiver one. We need him in that slot position in the X, whatever it is, and having him be that Swiss Army knife. That's where he's the most effective. It opens him up when Noah Thomas and Colby Young are going to be double teamed on the sides, and they're going to be the 50-50 targets. Dylan Bell's not a 50-50 ball guy. So I think Dylan Bell, once again, going to the jet sweeps and things like that, we can game plan around him. I'm really excited for old 86 to get back to his ways of 2023 because in 2023 he was one of the most electrifying players in football. I think a great comparison is Deebo Samuel. What they did with him at South Carolina and really what the 49ers did with him and probably the Commanders will in the NFL. That's what he can be. He's just a do-it-all guy that, like I said. So I'm really excited about Dylan Bell. I think he's going to have more of a bounce back year. I guess that would be breakout as well. But
Yeah.
yeah, so super excited for him. And then on the defensive side of the ball, I touched on stopping the run. I think Kirby, like we said, harped on that all off season, and that starts with your defensive line. Your front seven is the most important position group in football. I think, and I think our linebacking core is one of the best in all of football. But the defensive line in our 2 years that we won the national championship, and even in 2023, we had some game wreckers on the defensive line. 2021 and 22, you think of Jordan Davis, you think of Devontae Wyatt, you think of Jalen Carter. Those guys were the differences on defense. They were, first of all, leaders in the locker room, but second of all, absolute game wreckers. And so on defense is Elijah Griffin. It's going to be crazy to see a freshman on a Georgia defense start at a defensive line position, but I think he gets that starting job, and I think he's going to be a super high impact player. I think the defensive line is the most hurt position group in college football, besides probably quarterback and maybe even wide receiver, as a result of the transfer portal and NIL. You get the quarterbacks and the wide receivers; they're the princesses, and they want immediate playing time. They want to start as a freshman. And at Georgia, we have depth, and you're not going to do that. You're going to have to work for that. But I think for the defensive line in college football, that's the next position group that has just this serious turnover among all college football teams. These guys are wanting to go to places and get immediate playing time. Think of Bear Alexander. He's been at a different school every single year. I think
It's
Elijah
crazy.
Griffin is going to be the next stud of the Georgia defensive line group, and he's going to get that immediate playing time. I think he's earned it in fall camp. I think he earned it in the spring and in the summer. And I mean, we're going to have that game record. We're going to have to stop the run. And alongside Christian Miller's going to be a stud, preseason All SEC. He's going to get some double teams or some crazy looks and stuff, but it might open up Elijah Griffin to get in the backfield and be that disruptive player. So Dylan Bell, Elijah Griffin. Sorry I rambled for so long,
No,
but
that's great. I
those are my
love it.
two
That's what I
breakout
need.
players.
Um, Real quick on the Elijah Griffin note, Georgia's going to have two true freshmen starting, one on each side of the ball. Juan Gaston definitely looking like he's going to take that right guard spot.
Yep.
Excited. It kind of worries you seeing such an inexperienced player get um, in that offensive line in the SEC. But at the
Right.
same time, if a true freshman's starting over some guys who have been there for a while, that means he's probably pretty good. So that's
Yeah.
exciting to see.
Yeah.
Um, and then Elijah Griffin, I've heard so many good things about him. The stat every time I talk to anybody about Elijah Griffin, he's 6'4", he's 310, and he runs 20 miles an hour. And that's what the conversation goes off of. Like that's all I need to explain how
Yeah.
good he is.
It's
I'm excited to
insane.
see him. I think he's going to be great. I want to touch on two other things right there. Dylan Bell, I completely agree with you there. Because as you said, Dylan Bell was forced to play a position that he's not meant to play. As you said,
Yeah.
he's a slot guy. He's not a true wideout. He's not your 50-50 guy. Neither is London Humphreys, who you had to kind of put both of them out there this past year.
Right.
Unfortunately, that's just what happens when you lose your two starting wideouts.
Hmm.
Dylan, I did see a picture of him a couple weeks ago repping at running back in practice. I'm sure we'll see him get some reps there. I saw that run against Ball State, and like ever since then, I was just like, please hand the ball off to Dylan Bell again. I know it's Ball State, but
Yeah.
like that highlight just lives rent free in my mind. But as you said, Swiss Army knife. Debo is a good comparison. Outside of when he's playing DeAndre Baker, then that's really not as good of a comparison.
There
But
you go.
I see what you mean there. And then real quick, Bo Walker and Josh McCray. Do you have or that's not what I want to say. What do you think about um? Who do you think will get more time, I guess, out of those two? I kind of think Josh is going to be like your short yardage situation guy. He's not going to be who the offense runs through as far as the running game goes, but he's definitely like your more of your bruiser type. And I'm just excited to see Bo. I
Yeah.
think I think he'll be very solid.
Yeah, I think they have very similar playing styles. They're both kind of bowling ball type of players, and that's going to be a necessity to have. Nate Frazier is kind of the lightning, and we need the thunder to follow.
There you go.
And McCray and Bo Walker can be that. I think because McCray has had college football experience. Now it was at Illinois. But he played some pretty solid defenses at
Yeah.
Illinois and the Big Ten. So I think his transfer to the SEC will be a kind of like getting used to project for these first few games, and that's why I'm so excited about having Marshall and Austin Peay to open up before the SEC slate starts with Tennessee and Bama. But I think we're going to see some different packages among them too. Right now, I would say McCray probably gets more carries because, like I said, he's got the college football experience. But I would not be surprised in these first two games to see Bo Walker kind of take over second halves if Georgia is controlling the game. Like we talked about, he's just a bowling ball. I mean, he is the just stoutest looking dude out there, and it's so funny when I went to the scrimmage. I mean, he's just thick, like broad
Yeah.
shoulders, like
He's
huge
short
hips.
though. He's
Yeah,
short. I
he
mean,
is.
it's kind
He's
of great for
short.
running back. He can
Yeah,
uh,
he exactly. And
get through.
so,
Yeah.
go ahead, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I feel like it kind of makes him more elusive in a way.
Yeah, yeah. So
He's
he's
big, but he's
got like a
still
low
shorter.
center of gravity,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
it's gonna be fun to watch. But the funny thing about him is his feet are like so disproportional to his body. Like he's just this huge, stocky dude, and you'd think he'd have like big old feet. He's got like tiny feet, and they just look like it's kind of funny. But it's like I mean that's kind of what you
He's
want in
really
a running
good.
back. He's shifty.
Yeah.
Nobody's getting him on a shoelace tackle. It's hard to hit that tiny slot of a foot to shoelace grab him. But no, I'm super excited about both of them. McCray's got to stay healthy, but Bo Walker, he's going to be a fun future guy to keep your eye on this Georgia team.
Absolutely. Great stuff there with the running back room. Kirby's talked very highly about that group, especially yesterday. He and Cash came out and just said how consistent the group is, how excited he is. Kirby said it's a great group.
Yeah,
Uh, Quick answer on this one. Um, Go into a little depth if you want. I just want to move on to this other one. But
yeah.
is the offensive line an area of concern still for you? Do you think we have to worry about that as much as we were, or we've kind of sort of moved away from that as we've learned more in fall camp?
So, yeah, the worries are still out there. Everybody's talking about, oh, you lose four starters. Oh, whatever. They were so bad last year. All right. Well, there's two things on this. First of all, if we were so bad last year on the offensive line and everybody's, hating on us, well, why would it be bad to lose those guys? Let's get in these guys that have been in the system. And the second point to that is these guys have been in the system. They are maybe not the four starters, the true starters that we had last season, but every one of those four starters was hurt at some point in 2024. So these guys come in and they've had some serious playing time. They've even made a few starts in the 2024 season. I know Ernest Green has the most out of all of them, and he took a step back last year as opposed to 2023. I think Ernest Green is going to step back into that role of being kind of the leader on the offensive line. And then who I'm the most excited about is Micah Morris. Micah is the strongest dude on the team. He's an absolute beast. He is. I don't know if you saw this on my social accounts, but I asked him a question at a
I
press
saw that. Yeah.
conference, and his shoulders are out of the camera.
Dude,
Like,
his traps are like up to here on me. It's
yeah,
unreal.
yeah, so he is the prototypical offensive lineman
Yeah.
you want to have, and we've had so many great offensive line groups between, I mean, all the way back to the beginning of Kirby's tenure, and kind of rebuilding that Great Wall of Georgia that Kirby has talked about, and even Sam Pittman when he was here, and I think Searles will take a step forward and be much more in tune with Bobo and get the offensive line figured out. Those guys are going to be some big studs, and they've got to step up to the job. But I'm not near as worried about it as I was in the spring. I would say I think fall camp has proven that these guys are ready. They're the four that are going to take it, and I think Gaston's probably going to be that fifth guy. And I'm excited about him. I think we can open up the run game and keep Gunner safe long enough to get some plays moving, and it's gonna be fun watching them though.
Yeah, I do think you're right to be most excited about Micah Morris. I remember seeing him go into fullback for the first time in like 2023, and I was kind of like, I like this dude. I'm like,
Yeah,
I need to see more of him. So yeah, I'm very excited for him. I think the line overall is a pretty solid unit. We just don't know as much as we have in years prior. Definitely losing, and I agree with your point about losing those guys when we were so terrible at offensive line, but we're losing those guys. So
Yeah,
why are we that upset? I mean, there were some
yeah,
good players on there, obviously, but I do think, um, lo how do I say this? Not rebuilding, but regrouping.
yeah,
We're like that sort of thing. Not always a
yeah,
bad thing.
yeah.
But no, that's great. What is your biggest? We'll kind of let's see. Yeah, we'll go ahead and do this one. What is your biggest hot take for Georgia for the season?
So there's so much, and people are probably looking like I'm gonna drop some Heisman candidate or something. I don't think we're gonna have a Heisman candidate on this team, and I kind of love that about Georgia. We're kind of spreading the ball out. There's only one ball, and we want everybody to have it because we're confident in our athletes. So I'm not gonna give you a Heisman candidate or anything like that. What I will say is we will have an 1,000-yard receiver this year. Now I don't know who it will be. I can't pick out of all of the guys that we have because it is such a stacked room. But I think we have a 1,000-yard receiver, and it's like the first time in forever. I can't remember how many years,
I
but
think it's just Terrence Edwards. Terrence Edwards
yeah,
is the only one.
yeah. So I mean, it's been forever, and it's about time. So this goes all the way back to the offensive line, keeping Gunner safe for long enough to let him sit in the pocket and make the right throw. Everybody's worried about Gunner. He had a lot of stars next to his name for a reason when he came out of high school. He's no scrub. He's no walk on. He is a highly touted recruit that has waited his turn, has been in this system, and he's going to put the ball in the right place. We saw it in the SEC championship game. We saw it really in Notre Dame too. He didn't have a terrible, terrible game like everybody's talking about. And I think he's going to put the ball in the right spot. And I think we're going to get a wide receiver over 1,000 yards. If we really want to get hot takey, I'm going to say it's Colby Young. Colby Young is going to be our
Ooh,
1,000-yard receiver this year. Let's just get crazy. Let's say Colby Young over 1,000 yards, and then we'll go over 8.5 touchdowns.
I like it. I like it. I
So,
think Colby. You saw how much of how reliable of a target he became for Beck early
mhm.
on in the year. And I think if he had stayed in, if he hadn't had his troubles for the rest of the year, I mean, I think he could have put up some serious stats.
Yeah,
Um, I don't like being the guy that just picks the flashy, hyped up player just because. But like I
yeah,
do seriously think it could be Zach Branch. I think of
yeah,
all the guys in that room, just because I mean, just because he's so talented and so athletic. I
yeah,
think Noah Thomas also has a great chance just because of again the frame and the athleticism. This
yeah,
one is a little bit of a shift away from that whole topic, but it's important. It's kind of come out in the past week that the SEC is moving to a 9 game schedule, which means although we've already been doing this for so long, Georgia will play 3 opponents yearly, and the other 12 SEC teams will rotate year to year. So I think we can be pretty confident that Florida and Auburn will be two of them. I feel like it just has to be. Who's the
yeah.
third team? I know we're looking at Tennessee or South Carolina or Kentucky are the ones that people like to throw out there. I'll kind of break this into two parts. We'll do this real quick and then we'll go into top 25.
Yeah.
Who do you want it to be and who will it be?
So who I want it to be is Tennessee. I think it's kind of fun being Georgia because you have a target on your back, especially now with Kirby at the helm. We've been, whatever game we walk into, it's the other team's Super Bowl, right? And before Kirby, even South Carolina always thought of us as like their second hated rival. Behind Clemson, like South Carolina hated us. Now, I hated South Carolina too. I hate anybody that's not Georgia. However, I think because of that whole dynamic, South Carolina really wants us. I don't really, I mean, yeah, I don't like them, but I would much rather play Tennessee every year. Both away venues, I'm thinking selfishly, both away venues are fun. But if we play South Carolina, it's most likely going to be in the beginning of the year. And going to Columbia in September, even early October, it is the hottest place in the world. And it is a concrete jungle of just asphalt and tall buildings, and it beats down in that stadium. So as a fan, I don't want to play South Carolina every other year in Columbia. But on the flip side, going to Neyland is a very tough place to play. Obviously, we've beaten them and we've handled them for the past 8 years now. I think it is like Neyland's scary, but we've kind of owned Tennessee. Now, I'm not trying to jinx us or anything like that, but I love going to Neyland. Like I love going to Neyland and being in that environment because being the away fan in some of those situations is honestly fun. Like you feed off of
You're
the
the
hate.
villain. You're
Yeah,
the villain.
being the
It's
villain is
awesome.
awesome. So I want it to be Tennessee. Who do I think it will be? I think it is going to be Tennessee. The only kind of caution I have going into that is um, does the SEC want it to be Tennessee? Tennessee's probably they're definitely going to get Bama because of the third Saturday in October. That's great TV. They're probably going to get Vandy because that's their rivalry week. And I mean, I feel like it should be us. I think the other one for them would probably be Kentucky, don't you
Mm.
think?
Yeah. Well, I think it could be Kentucky. See, this is tough. I don't think it will be Tennessee just because, or I mean, it could. I don't know. If it's not Kentucky, it'll be Carolina. If it's not
Yeah.
Kentucky, it will be Carolina.
Yeah.
The tough thing is that third, you're right for sure on the other two. They've got to play Alabama. They've got to play Vandy.
Hmm.
Kentucky is a border state rivalry. I know those fans hate each other. They're both
Yeah.
very mid at football, but they both hate each other. So I think that could be one. I do think the bigger threat is I don't even know how big of a rivalry historically Florida and Tennessee are, but I just know
Yeah.
they both of those teams take that seriously. So
Right.
I think it would be easier for the SEC to say, "Hey, y'all play Carolina, and we'll give Tennessee one of those other games."
Yeah.
But I hate the idea of not being able to um, beat Tennessee every year. So
I know, and
we'll
the
see.
thing
We'll
with
see.
South Carolina too is like, and like I said, either or, I'm gonna hate both of them.
Yeah,
And Tennessee, I feel like has had more of an established rivalry. I mean, they owned us for a long time in the late '90s when they had Peyton Manning. So getting back on the positive side of that and owning them as of recent
that's been great.
gives me so much joy, and I want to keep that train rolling.
I do too. So I think it's definitely up for grabs with either of those.
Yep.
Last thing I wanted to talk about, we've got this top 25 pulled up. Uh, First point I want to make, there's 10 SEC teams on this.
Hmm.
Texas at 1, Georgia at 5, Bama at 8, LSU at 9, Carolina at 13, Florida at 15, Oklahoma at 18, A&M at 19, Ole Miss at 21, Tennessee at 24. I don't think I missed any.
I think you got
I
them all.
think I got them. That was a lot. But Big Ten needs to shut up. Let's go with that first of all. The Big Ten needs to stop running their mouth about how great they are, and how terrible the SEC is, and how we just can't compete with them, and oh, the 9 game schedule and all. I think the SEC is doing pretty good for themselves right now.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's going to talk about how, the Big Ten has won the past two national championships, whatever. Well, if you really want to get into the stats, we won 15 of the last 17 before that. So that's
Yeah.
still 15 out of
There's
19.
also an asterisk next to Michigan's title. Let's just go ahead and throw that
Yep,
out
let's
there.
go. Yeah, we can clarify that. So I mean, whatever. Like it's they can run their mouth all they want, and yes, it was settled on the football field. They got us last year. Ohio State took down Texas in the semifinal, and all that good stuff. Whatever. My thing is the SEC is still the best conference. There's a reason Netflix chose the SEC to make a show about, not the Big Ten. SEC football is different, and I think you can ask anybody. You think you want to ask Zachariah Branch, oh, Big Ten football at USC
I
was
think
what
he'll
it
give you a
was at
pretty good.
Georgia?
I think he'll give
Yeah,
you a pretty good answer for the SEC.
yeah. So Josh McCray, you want to ask him how Illinois football was in the Big Ten versus Georgia? Like, yeah, let's bring it on. Whatever.
Yeah, come on, come on.
Um,
Ask Ben Yursek.
yeah, exactly. So I mean, they're going to keep running their mouth, and I think it will speak on the football field. I do think the SEC is going to be much like last year. I think it's going to be some cannibalization. I think the SEC champion can be 10-2 probably. And it's going to be a crazy year just because of the schedules and how it stacks up for all of these teams. So the Big Ten can keep running their mouth. They're top heavy. They've got four great teams, and maybe a fifth in well, sorry, no, the fourth is maybe in Michigan. I think Penn State, Ohio State, and Oregon are definitely the cream of the crop over there. For us, it's 1 through 9 could win the
Yeah.
SEC. I
Oh
could
yeah.
make an argument for all of them. I could make an argument for Texas A&M, and I think they're ninth in the odds to win the SEC. I mean, it's something crazy like that. Maybe it's South Carolina. Like South Carolina has two of the best players in the country on either side of the ball in Lenore Sellers and Dylan Stewart. So top to bottom, I just think the SEC is stronger. So the Big Ten can kick one, and we'll take our 10 teams in the top 25 versus
I
your
like it.
conference all day long.
I like it, and I agree. Last two things I want to look at for this podcast. We're just going to look at some of the ones, kind of the I guess the hot takes of the poll and what we think about them.
Hmm.
And then after that, we'll look at specifically Georgia's ranking. I know
Yeah.
we talked about this before we started recording, but I think Penn State at 2 is still just ridiculous. Um,
Yeah, it is. I think I'm with you. Can't trust James Franklin until he wins the big one. And I mean Drew Aller, he's going to take a step forward. We talked about this. He's going to take a step forward, but is his step forward really that good? You know?
exactly from where he
So
is now. I've never been sold on him. If he proves me wrong, he proves me wrong, and I'll own
yeah,
that. But
we'll eat
I'm
our
just not
words.
not too sold on it. Um, I do think Clemson will be good. I don't know that they'll be better than us, but I'm not even throwing too much attention at that. Next one I did want to kind of look at Miami at 10 with Carson Beck. What do we think about Miami in 2025?
So Miami's going to be a question mark team. Everybody's like, oh, they get Carson back, whatever. They lose Cam Ward, who was the best quarterback in the country last year. Like he willed them to the win, to every single win they had. I mean, their defense was terrible, and he had to put up 45 points per game in order to win a football game. Carson Beck can't do that, in my opinion. I do think they took some steps forward on the defense. I think their defensive back room will honestly be kind of a strength on this team, whereas in last year it was god awful. So I think Miami will be better. Do I think they're a playoff team? They're a fringe playoff team. I think Clemson will control the ACC. They'll run the table. They'll probably go 12-0 if they beat LSU in week one. And I don't think Miami can compete with them. My pick for the ACC championship game is going to be Clemson versus Miami, but I think Miami has two, maybe even three losses in there, and then they play for the ACC championship and get skull drugged by Clemson, and they don't make the playoff. I can't trust Carson Beck. I didn't trust him here, and I think it's shown in fall camp. I don't know if you saw that picture that leaked, but it was like a jump ball, and there's three DBs on one
I
Miami
think I did see
receiver.
that. How long ago was that?
It was probably 2 weeks ago,
Okay,
and
I may have seen that.
Somebody tweeted out. I know a Carson Beck panic pick when he throws it into triple
Florida
coverage.
game.
So, yep,
Oh man.
exactly.
Uh, I and this is an unpopular take. I think Miami will be good. I
Hmm.
don't know that that's unpopular, but what I'm about to say is Carson Beck had a horrible stretch from uh, I want to say the first Texas game to Ole Miss. I mean, he was just terrible. That being said, I think it's more of an issue with his character and his leadership than it is with his skill. Because we saw what he was in 2023. He did have Brock Bowers and Ladd McConkey. But he was pretty good in 2023. He made some NFL level throws. I do think when he's on, he's on. I just don't
Hmm.
know if you're going to get that version of Miami. I think it really
Yeah,
it depends on the quarterback, is what I'm going to say there.
yeah,
But I do think they'll probably lose to Florida. I
I
think they'll
agree.
probably lose to Notre Dame. I think it'll be a close game, though. I could see that going either way. I'm not really
Mhm.
um, too concerned about that, I guess. Looking at the rest of this list, I don't think anything else is that crazy.
Yeah.
I
The
mean,
only angst I have is Illinois at 12.
yeah, okay, that's fair. I do think
That's
that's
another
a
one
little high.
out of the Big Ten. Everybody's high on Illinois, and they're high on what they bring to the table. Altmaier back at quarterback, all that good stuff. I'm just not sold on Illinois. Like, yeah, they might be the next Indiana, but that was a fluke. Let's
They're
just be
definitely a fluke.
honest.
Where's
Like
Indiana?
that was
Indiana's at 20. Indiana's
yeah.
not going to go back to the top 12. It will not
No,
happen.
no, they won't. I like Coach Sig. I like what he's done. Think it's a great move by Indiana to sign him long term, but I don't think there will be another Indiana this year. I think Illinois will have too tough of a schedule within the Big Ten. I think they play Ohio State and Oregon, if I'm not mistaken. So that's an automatic two losses. I just
Definitely.
don't
Oh,
see them
yeah.
in the playoff, but
Yeah, I don't either.
whatever.
Um, this meeting's got about 2 minutes left, so I want to go ahead and wrap this up.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about Georgia real quick. Georgia at 5, and this is a pretty simple question. I'll answer first, and I'll give you the floor. High, low, or just right? I think it's just right for two reasons. Georgia was number 5 in 2021, and they won it all, so I like that trend. I think that's maybe a good luck charm, so I'll take
Hmm.
that. But also,
Yep.
I do think it's a good spot because Georgia, year in year out, Georgia, Alabama, Texas, and Ohio State will have the top 4 most talented rosters in the country.
Yeah.
Regardless of all the other factors, they should always be top 10, and they are here. 3 of them in the top 5. So I think it's
Yep.
a fair spot. I don't think it's too low, too high. I think it's just right.
I agree. I think just right. It might be one spot too high, and I just am because I'm going off a head to head. I think Notre Dame deserves maybe the one spot above us, just because of what happened in New Orleans last year. Now it's two totally different
Hmm.
teams, but I just always give the benefit of the doubt to who won the last matchup, and especially if it was the last game of the year. And I would give Notre Dame the spot above us. But yeah, I think it's kind of crazy though. Right next to our name, we've got that one AP vote to be the number one team in the
Yeah.
country. So I
Yeah.
love that confidence in
Love the
us.
firepower. Love the bulletin board material. It's
There
great.
you go.
I
There you
love
go.
heading into the year with some people doubting on us. It's awesome.
I do too.
Um,
This narrative's awesome.
yeah. Oh, it's great. I love it. I love it. It's incredible. Well, Hammy, thank you for joining the show. Definitely look forward to doing some more stuff with you. This season. Definitely
Yeah.
excited for what Georgia can be. Um, so really looking forward to it.
Yeah, man. Let's make this like a weekly thing. This was awesome.
Absolutely.
Love it.
Absolutely. That was great. Appreciate you,
Yep.
man.
Yep.
Huge thanks to Hammy for our interview. Definitely got some good talking points about Georgia football. Some exciting things going into the season. Obviously, looking over the top 25. Georgia, just in general, some main ideas about Georgia heading into the season. Very excited for what we have in our skill positions and just the team in general. Very excited for what we got. We're going to shift gears a little bit. We've got this new app that I am very happy to promote to you guys. It's called Battle Bets, and I'm going to explain kind of how it works and then go over some of my picks for the week. So we're going to explain what the whole premise of the idea is, and then I'm going to actually go into the content part of it. So Battle Bets is a new app that's being promoted across college football. Basically what it is you take real lines, real betting lines from games, and you are placing fake money on it, if that makes sense. So like Georgia's favored by 39.5 versus Marshall. I can put $1,000 on that. And kind of be like, hey, I'm saying Georgia's going to win by a lot. I'm saying they're going to cover the spread. I'm going to take them to cover, but I'm not actually putting real money into it. So in turn, A, I'm not getting addicted to sports gambling, and B, I'm not losing a lot of money on sports gambling. So it's great. It's a great app. I recommend you all go download it. I'll have it in the comments somewhere or the description. It'll be on my Instagram a lot, I'm sure. Go follow the Battle Bets page on Instagram. Anyway, we're going to go ahead and get straight into this. The first one was Georgia versus Marshall, 55.5 total points. We're going to take the over on this one. Although I don't think Georgia covers the spread, I do think the overall total will be over 55.5. I do think Georgia will, on their own, break that over-under, though I don't think Georgia covers the spread. The next one, this is specifically Georgia. We're going to kind of fly through these a little bit. Nate Frazier, 78.5 rushing yards. I'm going to take the over on that one. I don't think that Nate Frazier should be in for a long time this game, or that he will, given that it will be hopefully an easier game and one to see some backups get in. That being said, I do think Nate will crush that line, or at least pass it. He will go on the over. Now we're going to hop into a little bit of around the country. Ohio State, Texas, over under 47.5. I'm taking the under. I don't think there's enough knowns about either of these teams offensively. Arch Manning obviously being Texas' quarterback, Julian Sain being Ohio State's. Jeremiah Smith obviously is back. We don't really know too much about Ohio State running backs. We don't know a whole lot about Texas' offense in general. They're replacing Kelvin Banks, Jalen Walker's son. So I just don't think there's as much certainty on the offensive side of the ball as the defensive side of the ball for either of these teams. Taking the under and the over-under for that game. Clemson and LSU is a different story. Two very offensive, strong teams, offensive powerhouses. Over-under is 57.5. I'm taking the over for that game. Back to both of these games, though, as well, for the money line, just straight up who's winning the game. I don't actually have the money lines on here, which is really stupid on my part. I'll make sure to bring that next week. But money line, I'm taking Ohio State. Money line, I'm taking Clemson. I probably would have picked LSU, even though I do think it's not easy to go on the road week one. In a ranked game especially, I am more so convinced that LSU cannot win an opening game until they do it. So that's why I'm picking Clemson's money line. So pretty quick, but you get the point of it. Go follow Battle Bets. Go join the league. We've got a competition going on with all my followers. It's going to be great. Anyway, still kind of around the country in this part of the podcast. We're going to talk about my pick'em around the country. It'll be pretty quick. If there's some explanation that needs to be had, we'll have it. First one. Ohio State, Texas. As I said, Ohio State. And the tiebreaker on Pick'em each week, ESPN Pick'em, which I'm also promoting on my page. I will post that link there on Instagram. I will take the tiebreaker is total points in that game. I'm saying 45. I'm thinking like a 24-21 ball game. Nothing too insane. These next ones I can kind of go through pretty quickly. Tulane over Northwestern. Utah State over UTEP. Fresno over GATA, Georgia Southern. Arizona over Hawaii. Oregon State over Cal. UCLA over Utah. South Carolina over Virginia Tech, although that could be an interesting game. I picked Miami over Notre Dame, but I kind of backtracked on that in my conversation with Hammy, just because I do think there's some inconsistencies with Beck. If Beck is on, Miami will win. If Beck is the Beck we saw at times last year, Notre Dame will win. That's kind of what I'm going to go with for that. Might have to switch that later in the week. We'll see. The night game, the primetime slot that week is LSU Clemson. As I said, I'm taking Clemson. Not too much to explain that I haven't already gone over there. We're going to look at the injury list just a little bit for Georgia. I'll be right back with that. This is one of Georgia's healthiest teams in a long time heading into fall camp. Georgia does not have their at least typical issues of a star player being just demolished, not for the year or close to it. We're going to run through these pretty quickly. Ryan Montgomery is probable. He's playing in practice a good bit. He's been looking tremendous for a third-string quarterback and just in general. Rod Robinson's back. Rod Robinson can really be elite when he is healthy. Tyler Williams, the freshman, is probable. Jaden Riddell is in. He's good. Same with Colton Heinrich. He's probable. Entire offensive line is back in him. So that's great. I'm excited for that. This is, as I mentioned, as Kirby has said, this is the healthiest team Georgia has had in a very long time. One idea that was brought up to me maybe for why this is because of cooler temperatures. It's not hell in Athens as far as heat like it has been for a long time for fall camp, which is, it's great. It's definitely helped with everything in Athens, but especially the football team. So that's probably had something to do with it. But it's one thing I have heard, which is awesome. It's been one of the most physical camps still. That's one of the most physical camps Kirby's ever had, and we have so few injuries. This team's going to be really good. I'm really, really excited to look at this team and see how we do in 2025. We are not going to go over film this week just because I'm kind of trying to shift away from the player film into game film. So we'll go back over film next week. There's two players I do kind of want to look at next week. They're going to be Drew Bobo and Raylan Wilson, just depending on how they do. Or we'll go over it no matter what. Just depending on how much they play, really, is what I should say right there, is we'll determine how we'll look at that film. Injury list, though, Brett Thorson, we're not really sure if he's going to play this week. He'll be back soon. I'm not too worried about his status, but he will be back, which is exciting. Again, just not sure what it looks like for this week. We're going to go over Q&A. We're going to go over my score prediction, and then we're going to go over the biblical, the scripture part, the faith of this podcast, which I like to do every week. I didn't get to it last week for some reasons. So we'll go ahead and pull this up. These are some Q&As that I asked on my story on Sunday, I believe, and I appreciate everyone who participated in this. Definitely gives me some more content to look at and helps me to interact with you guys a little better, which is very exciting. Anyway, we're going to jump right into these questions that I got. So, again, just some general questions that I asked. Someone said, can we please start off fast? I would hope so. Mike Bobo has emphasized trying to start fast and not playing from behind this year, having an aggressive approach, so I do think that we will start fast, yes. Who is the RB behind Nate? Haven't heard much about Josh McCray. Hammy and I just talked about this. I think it'll be, your main guys will be Bo and Josh McCray right behind Nate. I don't know what the order is going to end up looking like. Or that it will exactly be that to start the year, but it will get to that point for sure, I believe. Can Nate stay healthy all year? Honest answer, I don't know. It's very tough for a running back to stay healthy when you've got a schedule like we do, but also just being a running back in general, especially in the SEC. It's tough to stay healthy for that long. We already talked about the spread. First play of the game, it will be a screen. That's my take. It'll be a screen or inside zone, which I'm not mad about, as Hammy and I discussed. Zach Branch is the sort of guy you can get screens to and get really good positive yards out of. So that's exciting to look at. Give me a reason to believe in Gunner. Accurate and a leader. I really, that's all there is to Gunner. You can dive into that a little more, but that's the gist of it. Position group nobody's talking about. Everyone's talking about every position group, I feel like, but the two that aren't getting enough respect are the tight end room and the running back room. Pretty firm on that. Just not enough talk about them in general. I am going to do a tight end spotlight post at some point this week. Does Gaston start at right guard? Yes, he will, and I think that's a good sign, meaning that we're comfortable putting in a true freshman into SEC offensive line against SEC teams. Scale of 1 to 10, what crowd intensity are we feeling for the game? I said it should be an 8 or 9. It's an opening game. I know it's Marshall, but it's an opening game. So that's my honest take on that. Most outstanding wide receiver week 1. I'm going to go Zach just because I think Marshall has no match for his athletic ability. And then the other one, I think, was how is Gunner going to perform? Gunner's going to have a great week. Gunner's going to have a great week, great game. Score prediction for this game, Dogs 56, Marshall 17. I do think a lot of those points could come late in the game, but Georgia will dominate overall is my take on this game. So that's really the Georgia aspect of this podcast. Now I want to get into a little bit of faith and scripture. All right, so perseverance is kind of the topic I want to touch up on just a little bit for the verse of the week, the topic of the week. Perseverance is very important to me. I've had to persevere through some injuries playing football in my life. I had to persevere through some other things. Everyone's had to persevere at some point, so I think it's a very relatable topic. The Bible verse I want to read is James 1, verse 12. Blessed is the one who perseveres under trial, because having stood the test, that person will receive the crown of life. Again, perseverance is a very important quality. Everyone needs it. Everyone's had it at some point. And everyone has their own trials and tribulations. Everyone has their own troubles. Point being, though, trust in Jesus. Put your faith in Him, and He will help you get through whatever. He's not going to throw anything at you that you just cannot handle. And that's a very promising, very encouraging point to make. Again, it's just so important. We all have our different lives, our different stories, our different backgrounds, but perseverance is, no matter what your background is, perseverance is something that's important. Everyone is a quality everyone needs to have at one point or another, and perseverance is really just so important in our world. And I just want to encourage you all to persevere through whatever challenges you may be going through. So that's really kind of the point I wanted to get into for perseverance. All right, that concludes this week of the Saturday in Athens GA podcast. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Glad we got to get Hammy on, talk some Georgia football. Appreciate, again, all of you being here. Subscribe, follow, Go Dogs. Buy this merch. I keep grabbing the wrong one because it's backwards on my screen. I point right here, and that's not what it shows on the screen. So anyway, get the merch. Love the logo. I'm going to do a giveaway very soon on the page. Go Dogs, beat Marshall.